Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be talking about the disappearing act of the middle class. And I know it's complicated, it is going to be complicated, but I'm going to break it down into 5 points, simple points, that will leave you questioning about the illusion of financial stability. And now to my first point, which is the disappearing act. So in our current world, the financial stability is like an illusion. It's very hard to even maintain in the middle class. So to put it in simple terms, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class is vanishing. So in the past 50 years, we have seen a 16% increase in income in household earnings. But 16% seems to be a good number, right? Oh yeah, there's positive, at least there's positive, but no, it's actually negative. Why is it negative? To put it in like a simple comparison, I'm going to use a normal house price as a comparison. To buy a house right now is 190% more than 50 years ago. And in the past 50 years, the income has only increased 16%. Do you know how little that is? Meaning, you cannot spend more, in fact, you can now spend less. And for college tuitions, it has increased 264%, which is horrible. Because now you're paying for something that is 264% more expensive than 50 years ago, going out there just to have a 16% increase in income, which is meaning it's worse than 50 years ago. It's worse to live now than 50 years ago because back when nothing was increased, it was at least more balanced. And on to my second point, which is measuring the middle class. So there's two major ways to measure the middle class. The first way is to measure by your income. So how much you earn, because there's always a minimum wage, more than minimum wage, and rich. So if you're above minimum wage and some category that the numbers categorize you as middle class, then you're middle class. And it's not just about the income, it's about how much your income can let you experience, how much you can spend freely, or whether you can buy example, like a house or so. And that's how you measure if you're middle class. That's the first way. And the second one is, measured by a chart, a triangle chart, where there's 33%, 33%, 33%, rich, middle class, lower class, and then the top 1% is just, the one that is dispatched from everyone else, just extraordinary. So this 33% is harder to disappear. The one that I said just now is the one that keeps constantly trying to disappear because, the people are earning lesser in the middle class and they're starting to vanish into the lower class, or they become, from the upper middle class, they become rich people. So the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Well, in this case, the 33%, 33%, 33%, at the very bottom of the middle class 33% is about almost the same as the lower class top 33%. And it applies to the top of middle class and the bottom of rich class. Well, at least that's how I put it. And in this case, middle class can't really disappear, even though in between the money range is getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the top of middle class and the bottom of middle class, the gap of money is starting to get bigger and bigger. Even though in the chart it seems like they still exist, but the range of where are you really middle class is starting to stretch a whole lot. And now to my third point, which is the illusion of middle class. Actually, based on survey, most of the people in this world proclaim to be middle class. And it doesn't really matter what their paycheck is. Maybe they're actually lower class, or maybe they're actually slightly rich, but they all proclaim to be middle class, most of them. Well, it's not actually about the paycheck or the income. It's about the experience or how you spend it or how much you have left, you know what I mean? And that's how you actually measure whether you're like in a comfortable position or not. Sometimes that's how you define middle class. And actually, based on survey, 1 out of every 4 person in the US earns about $200,000 a year. That proclaims to be a middle class, by the way. They proclaim to be a middle class, and 1 out of 4 of them normally earn $200,000 a year. And honestly, how could they be in the middle class, right? They should have millions by now. But no, it's just a poor choice of decision, because actually, research shows that they actually live paycheck to paycheck during the year, which is crazy, because 200,000 living paycheck to paycheck throughout the year is, why would you do that? But also, people will say, wow, it's the place you live in, the high cost, Well, it's also a bit of luck, but at the same time, you can still manage. There's no such thing as, there's no way I can spend less than 200,000 paycheck to paycheck. Because that's just simply not possible. Because if you think about the people that live in the same area but earns 100,000, how are they supposed to live? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Sometimes the illusion of middle class is kind of foggy. I mean, even if you earn like 150,000, but you actually have more in the bank account than the 200,000 because you actually save, or you live in a different area which you can actually consider moving to, then it's gonna be more complicated to measure the middle class from there. And now to our fourth point, which is a numbers game. So numbers don't lie, right? Or do they? So based on research, the middle class people earn about 38,000 to 114,000 annually. And it seems like a broad number in between, right? But that's because our target is a moving one. Of course, if you think about it, which I've mentioned just now, the housing has increased 190%, college tuition has increased 264%. Feels like the middle class is starting to vanish, right? As people's paycheck and income start to stay stagnant, which makes it even harder to survive. Well, if you think about it, in the number between 114,000 to 38,000 is around $76,000. And if we can all agree that being middle class is somebody who can perhaps buy a house, of course not with cash, but with like loan over time, then 76,000 is not able to achieve that if you earn that much a year. Yeah, because by the end of 2023, a average house price is around 431,000, and with an interest rate of 7%, which is a national average, it's not possible. Because if you go to a bank and you want to borrow money to loan on a house with 7% interest, you have to have at least 130,000 income annually. So it's definitely not happening, which is the hard part to measure middle class. So now, are you middle class? But you can't really buy a house now, so what are you? And now to my fifth point, which is choice, luck, and value. So how do you define middle class in the end of the day? I think you should define it yourself. Middle class should be defined by yourself. I mean, middle class is a person that can spend comfortably, live a comfortable life. It doesn't always necessarily have to be, if I'm middle class, I have to buy a house. You can rent, which most of the time, and a lot of times, not most of the times, is actually a better choice. If it's the better choice for your future, because you work for your future, that's what you do. You don't live paycheck to paycheck just repeatedly. That would cause your future to be completely doomed. What are you gonna do when you retire? Nothing saved up when you retire. Then what, are you gonna be lower class when you retire? No, you gotta save up. And normally when you save up, you can get money to invest. Invest makes you richer. And you could work very hard, and maybe just split the rent with a roommate or something until maybe when you're reaching adulthood, 24, 26 years old. And then by then, maybe you can earn 6 figures. Who knows? But a lot of people do it until they reach 6 figures, 7 figures. But they stay very stagnant with their routine. Maybe they just have an office in the garage, even perhaps in their parents' garage, or they just rent an apartment with a roommate until they make it. But that's just how it works. If you're in the middle class and you're struggling to get out of it, that's how you do it. If you cannot instantly start a business and work and you're not young, you're stuck in a position, that's how you do it. If you're stuck in a position where you can only get out from the middle class onwards, you only can save and invest. You cannot stop your work at the same time. You perhaps need to eat lunch, you have a family to fund. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, now to the conclusion. The conclusion is that the middle class is starting to vanish. And there's many ways to measure the middle class, but in my opinion, as long as you can spend comfortably and not worry about your next paycheck or your next month or your next meal, then you should be comfortable. As long as you're comfortable, you should be in the middle class or consider. And that's what most people think as well. But if you're struggling, you have to be true to yourself, because if you're not true to yourself, you can never improve. And if you can never be true to yourself, you can never get out of lower class or even middle class. Anyways, I think that most people in this world are in the middle class if you're measuring by the percentage of 33%, 33%, 33%. Because most of the people you would see is the middle class. I mean, on the streets, because they are the one walking on the streets. The rich people normally don't really walk so much on the streets, believe it or not. And the lower class people would be working, which is the truth. Don't like to offend people, but yeah, that would be it for this video. I hope you enjoy. I hope you learned something out of it. I hope you like and subscribe. And I might be pausing for a week because I have an exam coming up, but I hope you guys still support my videos. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.